have there been those moments where you've either like felt led astray, you've walked and made choices that you wish that you hadn't? I mean, obviously we all make choices we wish we hadn't, but were there any like notable moments where you're like, man, I got that one wrong, and this is going to be one of the biggest learned lessons, not only for my children, but for the people that you're going to coach moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, a big one was when I was 30 and I wanted to I talk about it in the book, Choose to Win, starting that company. And that was a $2 million education. So
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, because that's how much we lost because of that decision.
Yeah.
I wasn't in on the decision alone. My dad was fully behind it, but it was my idea, and I could have stopped it at any point.
Right.
And so hopefully we've made our money back on that investment.
Sure you have.
But we all do it. And it's funny because when you look back at a decision like that, very seldom do you go, well, there's nothing I could have done to avoid it, right?
Yeah.
And that's wisdom, which is interesting because when we look at, I'm just backtracking a little bit.
Yeah.
When we look at people as humans, when we're young, we have fluid intelligence. Fluid intelligence is like athletic ability. It kind of peaks in our 20s. And then it starts going down. This is why the great inventors, like whether it's a tech company founder or a physicist or a Nobel Prize winner, they're all in their 20s. And it's because of the way the brain works, right? We could juggle 1,000 things. We can see stuff. But then it starts decreasing in our early 30s.
Yeah.
But it gets replaced with crystallized intelligence. Mm. And that's our accumulation of knowledge and experience, or what we call wisdom. And that goes up for as long as we live. And so what's interesting to me is that with artificial intelligence, if you're north of 40, you should be real excited because you've got crystallized intelligence that young people don't have. But AI can do everything that they were doing as far as gathering data. So
that's good.
And so as coaches, one of the things that we do as coaches is we look at all these situations and we use that wisdom to help somebody through right questions. And then I would say this is the hallmark of a great leader or a great coach. Humility is the taproot of wisdom. And so if you're not sure who to vote for or which coach to pick, I'm going to challenge you, pick the wise one. Mm. And if you can't really tell wisdom, because it's hard to tell sometimes, then ask yourself, who's the humble one?
Mm. That's good.
And if they're humble, they're got a much better chance of being wise. Doesn't mean they are. It just means that the odds go way up.
That's so good.
That's who I want on my side, is a humble, wise person, right?
Well, and that's everything that I think about that when it comes to like politically. I think like medically, I want that. Financially, I want that person. Like that is a character quality, both of those that are across the board. It's not just from a coaching perspective. I want the person who's speaking to me about my health to be in the exact same space. I have a funny story for you, Tom, about wisdom. This past weekend, I was down in Florida marrying a couple who got unexpectedly engaged at a conference that I hosted last year. And I had just woken up and I leaned into the mirror. I was waiting for my coffee to brew. And I saw this like crinkly, what I perceive is a gray hair, my first gray hair. And I'm like, oh no, what is happening? Is this a gray hair? So even though my mom told me 1,000 times, never pluck a gray hair when you find one, I plucked it because I had to get my eyes on it. The root was brown, so I'm not really sure if it was just a fried blonde or what happened, but in my mind's eye, it was my first gray hair. I get my coffee, I sit down, I open up my Bible, and I'm like looking at the word, and I'm reading Old Testament, New Testament, Psalm, Proverb. And the proverb picked for that specific day was, gray hair is a sign of wisdom and a crown of glory. And I die laughing. I'm like, God, you are so good. Because less than 24 hours before, I was having a conversation with this 21-year-old who's stepping into the coaching industry, and her her biggest imposter syndrome and limiting belief is that she's too young. And I have faced that over and over and over again since starting into this coaching side of my business. I was 30 at the time when I started. And even in the entrepreneurial endeavors that I did before that, I felt like I was always too young. And wisdom doesn't know an age. And gray hair doesn't either, clearly. I'm not going to give that away. But it was that moment where I'm like laughing with the Lord and their reassurance of like authority and power that is God-given, spirit-driven success, kingdom-driven success doesn't come in the time frame that the world gives it. And often the world is doing that based on a place of age, but maturation and age are also different. And I think that that's like, it was just one of those moments that I wanted to share because it's too funny. It literally happened 2 days ago. So the fact that you were talking about that, I'm like, of course, I get to share out loud to the world that I got my first gray hair. Thanks, Tom.
There you go. There you go.
But it's so true. And yet, in the age, in the growing of that and the step by step, of course, you see things that the younger generation has never seen. And so we're navigating, especially through things like COVID, and your book is a part of that. We're navigating things that other generations, especially that are 20s and up, are younger, they've not sensed in the same way that we have from a familial perspective, from a financial perspective, you know? So it's really interesting. I love, as we like round this conversation out, I'd love for you to share, where is the vision besides you speaking and writing, which clearly is going to happen more often, hopefully in the near future. Where does the Ziglar Foundation, where do you guys project that you guys are going to be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So personally, at the end of 2021, my birthday is February 1st. And so at the end of the year, I'm always thinking, oh, I'm about to be a year older. Right?
Yep.
It's coming up. And so I asked myself a question, and that question was, okay, so I was 57. I'm 58 now. So I was 57 then. And I said, my legacy is already, like, if I go home today, my legacy it's baked, right?
Yeah,
it's there. Yeah. And so all you can do is, from whatever point of life you're in, you can say, well, what's the intentional legacy I want to leave from this stage forward? Okay. And my, kind of my heart's desire and what I'm focused on is the next generation of leaders. And what I mean by that, it's not an age thing. It is leaders who understand that the old way of leadership doesn't work. And I call it the top down command and control, do it because I said so, right?
For sure.
We call that the T-Rex leader. They got sharp teeth because they lead with fear. They bite people.
That's good.
And they got short arms because they like to control everything, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And so in the book, 10 Leadership Virtues, the name I give for this leader is the coach leader. And so what we're doing is we're teaching leaders how to coach their people. And it's just rocket ship right now for us and what we're doing. And so we'll take a leader and they'll go through our coach leadership program, and then we coach them how to coach their team members. And so it's not turning somebody says, I want to be a coach. No, it's teaching somebody who's in a leadership role how to use coaching principles to pull out and draw out the more capable person inside of each of their team members, to help them get alignment between their personal goals and the corporate goals and mission, and then to support them